This is a CBS 4 News special report.
City of Fort Lauderdale officials are holding a news conference now following yesterday's protest. Let's listen in to the mayor.
Chief Maglione is here to answer your questions, as am I. Can you hear us? I know there's a lot of background noise. Are we okay? Yeah. Okay. All right. The chief will be here to give you updates on what we have found out since yesterday. But before we begin with the chief, I just want to reiterate words that I've said earlier that I think we all should consider. Fort Lauderdale is a peaceful community in which we invite all people. We embrace diversity and we welcome different points of view. We do not accept racial bias or any kind of bias or discrimination in our community. This is not what Fort Lauderdale is about. What happened yesterday was a peaceful demonstration. At least that's how it began. There were many people from all walks of life, all races, all ages. People were actually happy to be able to have a place to speak out, express themselves, and then to be able to go home in peace. Many of them did. When the event was over at 6 p.m., many people left feeling like they got their message heard. Our police department was there hand in hand, making sure that the traffic did not interfere with the march, that the community had the opportunity to express itself as it's entitled to, and that we are all here to understand and listen to each other as we continue in this dialogue towards our racial justice. What happened afterwards, as we all know, is that infiltrators came into our community and tried to disrupt the event. We saw that there were people who arrived here with fireworks, arrived here with gas masks, arrived here with concrete blocks. They came to rumble, and this was not part of the event. The event was peaceful, the message was heard, and our community has been shaken now as a result of this group that tried to distract this community from the message that we all tried to hear. So going from this point forward, I'd like to introduce Chief Maglione, who will answer any questions with regard to the events yesterday. Chief?
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Just to recap what the mayor said, we had several demonstrations, protests yesterday, one of them earlier in the day that went off extremely well, and our intent was for the second one to be similarly uneventful and just protect folks' right to be heard and the First Amendment. Our mission was to be as invisible as possible, to not take away from anybody's message and have a strong police presence, but to make sure that they were safe, to make sure that roads were blocked in case they decided to become mobile, which they did. To be honest with you, we had very little notice on this and very little planning with the organizers because it was originally scheduled to be in Lauderhill. And about an hour and a half before the event was scheduled to begin, we learned that it was moving here. So what we put together was extremely quick and I think was extremely effective. The organized protest went very well, except for some small acts of vandalism during those scheduled times. There was really nothing remarkable about what took place other than folks got to express their First Amendment rights. About an hour after the incident was officially over, the group and others who newly arrived split up into basically three different groups. One remained in the park, a smaller group headed east on Las Olas, and another group headed north. At some point, our officers wound up in a confrontation, which is the main reason that we're here today. And an officer got on her police radio and asked for help. She was being surrounded. She felt threatened, and our officers went in to remove her from that situation. Shortly thereafter, another officer who was in her vehicle came under attack. The car was actually jumped on, the windows were broken out while she was in there. In the middle of that event, and I'm going to classify this as one large event because the timeline still has to be put together, is when you saw what was on the news and broadcast throughout social media yesterday and today was when our officer, as he passed a female that was on the ground already, appears to shove her as he goes by her. We have to put that timeline together, and it will be done. That officer has been removed from any contact with the public. He is relieved from duty. basically, while this matter is investigated, it is going to be investigated first and foremost to see if any Florida statutes were violated. In other words, a criminal investigation is going to commence that the Florida Department of Law Enforcement is going to do. It's not unusual in a case of police use of force, and we agree, and the state attorney agrees that in this circumstance, especially for transparency and complete objectivity, that the Florida Department of Law Enforcement conduct the investigation into whether our officer violated any criminal statutes. At the conclusion of that investigation is when we will conduct an administrative investigation to determine whether the officer was in violation of any department policies or procedures. At this point, I'll take any questions.
Chief, do you believe that your officers' actions escalated what happened after that?
It's very early to make that conclusion, but initially, I don't think the officer's action created what occurred. Like I said before, we were in the process of an officer rescue, which turned into a second officer rescue. Folks arrived at this event with spray paint, with projectiles, with gas masks, with milk. So do I think that certain folks came here to take away from the message of the larger group and their intent when they came here with those things in their pockets, to include fireworks as well? I think it was pre-planned before they even got in their vehicles and came here.
Your officers' actions escalated from there, because if you look at the video, people started throwing. You also had an officer that pushed him away. Do you believe your officers' actions at that point escalated the situation?
It could have. I mean, that's a reasonable conclusion. I don't know what was in people's minds, and when they interview the witnesses, they'll be able to explain that. So, absolutely, it could have added to what was already going on. And I did last night, and I'll do it again. I do want to commend the officer that did what she was supposed to do, and that's when you see either adrenaline or emotions or some type of interaction going south, whether it involves two civilians, a law enforcement officer and a civilian, or even two law enforcement officers. That's what our job is to do, is to intervene and return peace to whatever environment is going on. So I do commend her for seeing that there was a negative confrontation going on, and she did what she needed to do to mitigate that and end it.
There were several groups of people you said that kind of broke off. Are those the ones that are suspected of damaging businesses and things like that? And kind of what did they do, and who do you think did it?
It's hard to tell because you don't sign up to be part of these events, and I mean, obviously on social media people can say whether they're interested or whether they're going, but they don't take roles, so we don't know who's exactly with who or when they got here. We had over 1,000 people here yesterday, and people came and people left, and there definitely was some new arrivals later in the evening, but I couldn't tell you if that was an organized plan. Like I said, some folks went east on Las Olas, others went north toward the parking garage and 2nd Street, and about 200 remained in the park. The crowd had definitely gotten smaller, but I couldn't tell you who was who. I can tell you, from what I've been told so far, we've only made 2 arrests in the entire incident. There's been no significant injuries whatsoever to either police officers or any citizens. And quite a few businesses sustained damage, ranging from some spray paint to some broken windows. But no fires, no significant damage. I have not been informed of any major property loss. So, I mean, obviously we would have loved it to end at 6 o'clock when everything was great and everybody went their separate ways, but unfortunately we couldn't control that narrative.
Is that a veteran officer, or how long is that officer?
The officer's been with the Fort Lauderdale Police Department since October of 2016. Prior to that, he worked for the Florida Highway Patrol.
Chief, some of the problems a lot of protesters have is that if one of the protesters pushed that officer, they say they would have immediately been arrested. Whereas the officer can take part in that behavior, he's suspended, there's an investigation, if he's at home with family. That's what a lot of these protesters are out here protesting, the difference between if it's the same action, but if one's wearing a badge, they feel like they get a pass. What's your response to that?
I'm actually glad you asked that question, because I'll repeat what I said before. We made 2 arrests. One was a theft-related arrest, and one was for an outstanding warrant. And they were both, from what I was told, inside of a business that had been breached. So nobody was arrested for assaulting a police officer. As everybody saw yesterday, we were getting fireworks thrown at us, we were getting rocks thrown at us, we were getting all types of projectiles. Several officers got hit square in the face with bricks, and thank God they had their helmets with their shields on. But many officers got hit with projectiles, and I'm not informed of any arrests for anybody assaulting the police. So I'm going to have to say that that statement, that narrative, is not accurate. Definitely not for yesterday's event.
Chief, two questions, if you would. The female officer who got in the officer's face, was she a supervisor?
No.
No, she was sergeant. I thought we saw stripes on her sleeve.
No.
No. Okay. And secondly, with respect to infiltration, the mayor uses the word infiltrators and that narrative that people are coming from the outside, which is kind of generically spoken. Well, these folks were still local, right? You said they were supposed to organize a Lauderdale, correct?
The group is what I was speaking of, the organized group, which yesterday's group was the Dream Defenders.
Correct.
And they partner with Black Lives Matter to conduct
The second group, which was supposed to be
no. We had I don't even want to call it a protest, a demonstration earlier where a group walked from an address on 22nd Road, a store, and walked to the public safety building. They knelt for 8 minutes and then they walked back, and both us and the sheriff's office made sure that their path of travel was safe, and we went along with them. This group is what I meant by the second group. This event was scheduled to take place in Lauderhill, basically at the corner of 441 and Sunrise. And about an hour and a half before the event, we learned that it was now being moved to Fort Lauderdale because the event was canceled or postponed in Lauderhill.
With respect to infiltrators, they're locals, though. We don't have any reason to believe these folks are from outside the area. Is that right?
I don't know as for yesterday, but typically when there's events such as these, if you remember back when the FTA was here and OAS, there are plenty of people that, for lack of a better word, follow the protest circuit and come from other places. Some because it's causes they believe in, others because they are intent on causing mayhem and committing trouble, and that's what they do. So.
Is there proof that all of these folks came from somewhere else, or do you have, I would imagine you have addresses?
I don't know where the two arrests, where they reside, but those would be the only two I'd be able to determine. I don't know where anybody else is from.
Chief, have you learned anything? This is happening all around the nation, and from a tactical standpoint, if you have people who are at this point believed to be coming around, they're mobile, they're in vehicles, they are armed, so to speak, with whatever utensils they carry with them. Are you guys trying to figure out a way to prevent that from happening again? Because they're interspersing with the crowd. They're in the crowd. And then at the end, they wreak their own havoc. How do you police that? How do you, because it's asymmetrical kind of anti-protest. You get what I'm saying?
You know, it's very difficult, and everybody has that same First Amendment right, and everybody has the right to come to a public event like that until they break a law, and then action can be taken. And to be honest with you, it doesn't do anybody any good. You know, the organized group that was here to make a point, I think what happens dilutes their message and takes away from it, because there's going to be people that say, you know, this wasn't organized, this was intent on committing damage and trouble and assaulting police, and it takes away from what we're trying to do too, and that's provide a peaceful event. For the entire day, all we did was clear a large path for everybody to do what they had to do and not be disturbed and get their message out. The police and the demonstrators were interacting with each other all day long until this point, shortly before 7 o'clock, which was nearly an hour after the event was officially ended.
This is a question for the mayor. I have a quick question about, you see the looting, you see the damage, the vandalism that was done. A lot of people are saying that they're taking part in this behavior because they're angry, they're mad, and they want that response from local officials, from police, that, you know, a black man is killed with a knee on his neck, and there's not a news conference across the country, police departments, city officials coming out talking about what they're doing to stop this, that we're only here today because things got out of hand, and that's why they're trying to force a reaction out of so many officials across the country by taking part in this behavior.
First of all, I don't accept that premise. I don't accept that the behavior that happened in Minneapolis is what happens here in Fort Lauderdale. They were protesting against something that took place 2,000 miles away. We as a community are not like that. And those that think that they're going to get our attention, where have they been for all these years? We have already been partnering with our community leaders and our community folks in making sure that that dialogue continues and ensuring that we have equality and justice, and we don't exercise bias and prejudice in our community. So that premise is false. They got our attention, all right, but what they did was they simply distracted everybody from the true message that this demonstration was intended to address. And that message was about equality. That message was about that certain groups are constantly being harassed and harangued over who they are as a minority. And honestly, it's not just the black community. Jews are also being attacked. Gays are also being attacked. And that was the message that was being spoken about throughout the demonstration yesterday. From 3 to 6 p.m. yesterday, speaker after speaker spoke about not just the African American community, but all communities who are oppressed. This community does not suffer from that oppression like it may in other cities. I'm not saying that we are perfect. I'm not saying that we can't do better. And I'm not saying that this dialogue can't continue. But in no way did what happened yesterday is justified based on what goes on in this community. Fort Lauderdale is an open society, a free society, and a peaceful society.
Mr. Mayor,
yes.
You saw the video. What's your reaction? What's your reaction to the video you saw?
When I saw the video with the police officer, I thought it was offensive. I thought that should never have happened. I appreciate the fact that the department has relieved him of duty while this investigation happens. I understand the state's attorney has opened a file and an investigation to make sure that we get to the bottom of this. And if it's determined by those agencies that something wrong was done, then we will follow with swift disciplinary action. We are not afraid to do that, because if there's a wrong done, we will act quickly. Yes, ma'am.
You guys actually really tried to do the right thing at the last minute yesterday. Lauderdale said no, and you said we want to provide a space for you. And I'd love to hear from both of you on this. Do you regret now doing that?
No, we never regret giving people an opportunity to be heard, okay? What we do regret is that there are people who try to take advantage of situations like that, who try to prey on the innocent who are out there to try to convey a peaceful message, and they thought this is an opportunity for them to come in and wreak havoc. It's happening all over the country. This is not an isolated incident. Just watch the news. You can even watch Fox News, it even talks about it. The point is that the reality is we are in a stage in America where people are using these, they're opportunistic vandals who go around not because they have any particular message themselves, but they're trying to disrupt the message of others, which is peaceful, which is honest, and which will hopefully bring America to a better place.
Just a quick update on the state of the city right now. The curfew, what we'll see moving forward, what we'll see throughout the day.
The curfew was imposed last night at 9 p.m. until 6 a.m. this morning, that by both us and the county. The counties, I believe, was just last night. The cities will continue until we decide to suspend it, but it will continue tonight from 9 a.m. to 6 a.m. 9 p.m. to 6 a.m.
How do you gauge when you suspend it?
We're going to base our information on what the police report and what our intelligence tells us as far as where we feel these groups are organizing again. We hear the internet chatter. We have the ability to see what's going on. We can anticipate things. For example, Saturday night, we found out that they were going to go to the Galleria Mall and they were going to start looting there, okay, whoever they are, okay? About 70 people swarmed the Galleria. Our police officers surrounded the mall. They escaped knowing that they were going to be trapped in there by our police. So they're not here for peaceful justice. They're here to wreak havoc. That was Saturday. So keep in mind that these incidents continue to happen. And yesterday was just another opportunity for them to try to impose their injustice upon a peaceful environment.
Chief, can I ask you a question? Are you identifying the officer? Is she Crystal Smith, the one that pushed the officer out of the way? She's not under investigation. Do you identify that that's her?
Yep.
Crystal
that is
Smith.
her, yes.
And the officer, Stephen Coherence? That's the last name for us?
Who?
Well, you send us an email and we'll give you
Stephen Coherence. Is he the officer?
I think it's just like a town.
Yeah.
Coherence.
Okay, guys, we're going to wrap it up.
Looting in the city. Just right.
There were break-ins. We haven't taken inventory yet. I mean, we're going to go there today and see what happened. It's going to take a couple of days. Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that people were here to search and destroy.
Chief, when you say Mr. Coherence's administrative leave, is that administrative duties here? He's still working, right?
No, he's home.
He's home. With pay.
Yes.
Any other questions? We're good? Thank you so much.
Thank you for doing that.